Good morning. Having my chocolate shake in my coffee this morning. I wanted to tell you a little bit of a funny story that happened to me this morning because I actually learned something from it. So, I have been practicing my healthy sleep and I've been getting up at 6:30 every morning, whether I need to or not. And this morning, well, yesterday I had a very, very exhausting day, and I had my alarm set for 6:30 this morning, and it went off. And I have never been the type to use the snooze button, and in fact, I had it turned off on my phone, which I use as an alarm clock. So the alarm went off, and I was in a fog, and I picked up the phone and I pushed the little brightly lit thing on it. I thought, I need to sleep another hour. I found the 7:30, didn't have my glasses on or anything. I was looking, I found 7:30. I pushed it, and then I went back to sleep. I was like dead. Oh, well, then I seemed like 5 minutes later. You know how when you're real tired and you reset the alarm and you really need sleep, and the alarm's going off again. I woke up and I actually felt rested, and I thought, honestly, I felt like I slept 5 minutes, but I feel rested. That extra hour really did me good. So I'm figuring that it's 7:30, so I'm gonna have to readjust my day. I got up, I'm making my coffee, I look at the clock. It says something like 6:50. Wait a minute, wait. Did the electricity go off or something? And I looked at my watch, 6:50. I looked at the phone, 6:50. Apparently, the snooze button had turned itself back on. Or what I'm thinking is Dr. A sent somebody out to turn that snooze button back on so that I wouldn't sleep another hour. I only slept another 7 minutes. Isn't that ridiculous? Anyway, but I felt rested when I got up. So 7 more minutes of sleep apparently did it for me. But this taught me a lesson. And I'll tell you what the lesson is. If you need to change something, change it in small increments. You don't have to go large, not all the time. For example, I'm having my shake in some coffee, and I make pretty strong coffee. And consequently, I like to use some artificial sweetener in it. And I have a tendency to use a lot. And you have to count your artificial sweetener as a condiment. You can look that up on your condiments list, and I'll put that in the comments, okay, if you don't have that handy. But my tendency was to just, I put in one and it wasn't really enough. And I was going to put in another one, and I thought, just like this morning, when a few minutes extra sleep actually worked. I thought it was a whole hour, but it was only like 7 minutes. Maybe I'll just put in a little extra sweetener instead of the whole extra packet. And I thought, there's a lot of people who really like heavily salted food. Well, maybe you don't need to just upturn that salt shaker on your food. Maybe you can measure it out and decrease it a little bit. Okay, you don't have to give it up cold turkey, but also you don't have to say, no, I've got to have the salt. Measure out what you're using, and if it's not salty enough, put a tiny bit more. Don't put, if, let's say, those little packets that you get, some people use those to help measure their salt. So, instead of just dumping the whole packet over everything, try a quarter of a packet or half a packet. So I guess what I learned this morning was if you're changing something, you don't have to totally change everything. Well, I'm going to give up salt completely. Or, oh no, I can't give up salt. This is not salty enough, so let me put a whole other packet. We're thinking people, right? So let's think along the lines of being moderate about things. Like with me, with the sleeping, it turns out I learned I didn't need a whole extra hour to sleep. Who knew? I only needed a few extra minutes. Well, maybe that's the way with other things too. It's so common that people say, like, let's say they decide they don't want to have caffeine anymore. That's something, lots of times people will give up caffeine and they say, oh, no more coffee, no more sodas with caffeine, no more tea. And they completely quit. And then they find that they end up going back to it because it was too big of a step. That's the wonderful thing about our habits of health. It's one small habit at a time, tiny little steps. That allows your body to adjust. More importantly, it allows your mind to adjust. And as you grasp something small and you master it, then you can add something else small to it and master it. So, if you're feeling all enthusiastic and thinking, oh, I'm never going to eat such and such again. Well, we'll never say never, okay? Instead of thinking in terms of goals, think about the steps that you would need to take to reach a certain goal and work on getting to be able to do each step, okay? So control the process, all right? And if you do the process little by little, you will eventually see the goal. Also, if you need to make little changes, you're free to make them. Instead of saying, oh, giving up salt. Well, and then, you just feel you can't do it. So you're totally eating a lot of salt again. Well, do things gradually. And then, maybe you won't flip-flop from nothing to everything. You know what I'm saying? So I think this can be applied to a lot of different situations in life with our eating, our sleeping, our spending money, all sorts of things. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope that maybe this gives you something to think about. Because rather than, giving you like, okay, on day 1, have a quarter teaspoon of salt. On day 2, cut it in half. Have an eighth of... No. Figure out what small steps will work for you and do those. And write it down and keep track of how you're doing. And if you need to adjust, then fine-tune it, okay? But you can do this. You really can. Think about it. Make a plan. Figure out the steps. How do I do step 1? Work it out. And a really good way to do it, of course, is in your life book, okay? It has those small suggestions for how to do those small steps outlined in there for you. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you need encouragement, stay on this page. And really importantly, stay close to your coach.